Will Wade says lives ruined over the FBI probe. The former LSU head coach also coached in the UT system at UTC. Now he has a victory in the NCAA tournament. He's back and he's all looking good, except for maybe a couple of pounds. But he said the FBI ruined people's lives with their probe into what LSU was doing, which leads me to the whole concept of, should schools that were performing illegal things 5 years ago before NIL be punished for it? And that's where the ncaa Maliava comes up, because the NCAA tried to mess with the University of Tennessee when it came to Ian Maliava, and he said, step off. We're state sued him. So what are your thoughts on that? Should you be punished for stuff you did before the rules changed?
Well, as far as Nico's goes, NIL was a thing even when Nico was being recruited. It's just that they broke some NCAA rules that made no sense about NIL. But I'm going to say it depends on what it was. And I know it's a cop out for me to do that, but I am going to say yes. And here's why. Here's why I'm going to say yes. It wasn't just NIL back in the day when you were cheating and doing all this stuff. You also, if you were going to get in trouble, you had players locked into a program at that point because the transfer portal didn't exist. Or it wasn't what it was.
Right.
So players were stuck in a bad situation. This is, by the way, I want to go back 10, 12 years. This is why what Hugh Freeze did was so despicable. Forget the prostitution scandal. What happened was Ole Miss was being investigated for paying players. Hugh Freeze wanted to keep his recruiting class together and have them stuck in the program, even though he knew they were about to go on probation. So they leaked a bunch of stories out that, no, this wasn't what happened under Hugh Freeze. This happened under Houston Nutt, the coach before him. And after signing day happened, they willingly admitted that they lied on all that. And then, of course, Houston Nutt filed a defamation suit against Ole Miss. And in that defamation suit is when it was revealed that Hugh Freeze was, making calls to a bunch of hookers. So, no offense, Dave. But
yeah, our phones were ringing off the hook at the hooker household. Who's that? It's Hugh again.
Pastor Hugh.
I like you said a word there for a second. Go ahead.
But what I'm saying is that the cheating itself wasn't what was despicable. What was happening though before this era, you weren't just cheating. You were locking players in for their future with your program, no matter what happened to your program. And I think that's where the real problem was. It was much more of a hassle to transfer. So that's why I do think you should still be punished, because I think you put players' futures at risk when you did that.
Travis says, welcome to the Freaky Friday show with Creepy Uncle Dave and Crazy Caleb. So that's about as far as I can go on my goofy jokes. Listen, the bottom line is it would have to be something blatant. But if it came out that somebody fairly recent, I mean, you can't, the statute of limitations, I was going to say Reggie White just as a guy, but you can't go back that far, surely to goodness. So it would have to be something that happened relatively soon before NIL was thrown out there. I mean, that's basically what they tried to scare Tennessee with, because those are really not rules anymore. I mean, they can call them rules if they want to. I just don't see a scenario in which they can continue to punish people beforehand. I'll say this. If you broke a rule when it was a rule, you should be punished. You should be punished. If they change this, I got a speeding ticket 2 weeks ago. I mentioned this. They change the speed limit on I-75. They don't send me a refund. So to me, you should still pay the price. You signed that national letter of intent, which you agreed to not take money. And as anybody in the college athletics administration, you don't pay money. So to me, you're still on the hook for that. But I don't think they'll ever actually do it. And I think the state of Tennessee told them you can't do it. and they can't.
Yeah, and I think what upsets Wade is that, and to Steelman his point a little bit, he says that, look, a lot of people were affected by something that aren't rules anymore, so it's unfair, but I agree they were rules then. And also, doesn't Will Wade deserve some blame for that, in the sense of Will Wade, he threw 2 middle fingers up to the NCAA and the FBI probe, right?
Totally fought them the whole way. It was even more egregious than Bruce Pearl.
Oh yeah, Bruce Pearl. Whatever I think about him and Stephen Pearl taking shots at Tennessee and the midlife crisis coaches they are. Bruce Pearl, I will say at Auburn, he just went quiet, let Auburn accept a 1-year postseason ban, and they called it a day. And because they were part of that same FBI probe. And so what Will Wade was like, nope, I'm throwing 2 birds up and I'm going to fight this the whole way. And I think that was problematic on its own. By the way, I just want to point this out since he's at McNeese State. This is really funny, Dave. This is the second coach within 25, that McNeese State has hired after he was fired from another school for a scandal, because they also hired Tick Price at McNeese State back in 2000. For those who don't know, Tick Price was at Memphis after Larry Finch in 99, and he got fired because he was having sexual relations with a student at the school.
SD Scout guy says, my uncle got drafted into the Army the week before they ended the draft. He still had to serve the full term. Absolutely right. Sorry for your uncle. I hope he came back okay, but that's the way things go. Here's the bottom line is, and you don't hear me call names a lot, do you? I usually say he is a bad person instead of he's a blank. Will Wade's a cheater. Okay, so I talked to somebody who's one of the most successful college basketball coaches out there, period. Hundreds of wins. And immediately when Will Wade took the LSU job, you know what he told me, Caleb?
What
He said, when you go to LSU and that basketball program, it's not supported by the athletic department, which means, like the football team is, which means you'll have to cheat. And I said, really? He said, yes. Basically, everybody in the coaching community knows there are certain schools, LSU being one of them, as a basketball coach, when you go there, you're going to have to cheat. So it's not like he had a rogue assistant. It's not like he made a mistake at a barbecue. He knew he had to cheat when he left Chattanooga.
Yeah, and also, you know this, even Tennessee would do this. If you're being investigated, they'll throw you to the wolves to protect their football program. And so, and that's the big thing. Now, Will Wade, let's remember this. He's caught on tape. He's recorded on wiretaps, basically talking with arranging 2 of his players with an agent runner, making cash deals for them when it's illegal. He's asked by his superiors to sit down and discuss the wiretap, and he refused. He said, no, if your boss tells you, I think you broke some rules, I need you to come talk to me real quick, and you say no, you're getting fired.
Yes.
And on top of that, the thing that stood out to me about Will Wade was every single fellow coach in the SEC despised him. Remember that? Yep. And not despise like, there's a despise of I can't beat them, I'm jealous. There's another despise of this guy he just tries to hack off everybody. And so the thing I will say with Will Wade is, don't throw your middle fingers up to everybody. Don't say, I don't care. Nothing's wrong. I can do what I want. Y'all can't do anything to me. And then when it comes back to bite you, say, look at all the lives that were ruined by this. This is unfair. I don't like it when people do that. I'm like, you rubbed your nose in the idea that you could get away with anything. And then when you couldn't, you complain about the lives that were ruined. Well, maybe you shouldn't have rubbed your nose in everybody's face the whole time. This is my biggest reason for, I say gambling, you shouldn't be allowed back in the sport no matter what. But my biggest reason for Pete Rose is Pete Rose rubbed baseball's face in the fact that he was gambling on the sport. And he was acting like a you-know-what in the 80s. And then when they banned him for life, now he goes and admits it 15 years later. He now goes on this like, I just want to be back in baseball. I got grandkids.
Let me ask you this. Well, and was he still rubbing everybody's nose in it last night when he's smiling and hee-hawing and having a good time? Oh, you can ask me. I got fired. No big deal. to me, he seemed like he was still doing the same thing.